Hello, happy Wellness Wednesday. This is Julie with Balance Life with Julie, regenerative health practitioner and holistic nutritionist. I am very, very excited about the topic today. I'm going to be talking about hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's. More specifically, I'm going to be talking about all the mistakes that I made on my hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's journey, things I tried that didn't work, and what I wish I had known and understood sooner, what I wish I had known and implemented sooner so that I could actually get healthy and feel better. So, if you're new to my channel, if you're new to my page, I have been a practitioner for the past several years. I have also successfully reversed hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's in my body 100% holistically. And unfortunately, there are still millions and millions of people, especially women, that struggle with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's and just like autoimmune conditions in general. Oftentimes, when somebody is dealing with an autoimmune condition, it's not just one condition. In fact, just before I started this live, I had someone reach out to me on behalf of a client of theirs who has MS and lupus, and both of those are autoimmune issues and they are connected. So, um, I want to talk about like my experience of like getting diagnosed, what I thought, what I was told was going to be my reality for the rest of my life. And I did not want to accept that I was just going to be sick for the rest of my life. So I actually decided that I was going to find a way to heal myself. And one thing led to another, and eventually I decided the best thing for me to do would be to actually deeply learn about how the body can heal and regenerate. And once I was able to heal myself, I thought, well, I don't really want to keep this information all to myself. There's other people that are in the same boat that I was in that probably also want to heal and get better. So I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's in, I want to say, like late 2013, early 2014. Um, and this happened about, my husband had passed away in September of 2012. So this was about a year and a half after his passing. So after going through a very, very traumatic and stressful time in my life, I got this diagnosis. And at the time that I was diagnosed, I felt like I totally felt defeated. I thought, oh my God, like now, not only am I not with the person that I thought I was going to grow old with, but on top of that, my body is failing me. I was dealing with depression and anxiety. I had all kinds of chronic aches and pains. I had put on quite a bit of weight, which was really, really difficult for me to handle at the time because I had been used to being like a size 2 for most of my adult life, and it was really, really difficult. What else? I have to really think back because I feel so good in my body now that I can't even really remember what it felt like. So I have to kind of like put my thinking cap on and try and recall how I felt. So depression, anxiety, brain fog, gut issues. I had a lot of chronic aches and pains. And in fact, in the morning when I would go to get out of bed, I couldn't stand up straight because my joints were so inflamed. So those were the issues that I was dealing with. I got the diagnosis. And then, of course, I was told by my doctor that the only solution was for me to go on medication. So I was put on two different types of medications. And I very naively thought at the time, like, okay, now I'm taking these medications, like maybe I'm going to start to feel better. And I very, very quickly realized that that was not going to happen. So with each passing day, each passing week, each passing month, I started to feel worse and worse and worse. And so I thought, well, this is not the way that I want to do my life. Like, I do not want to spend the rest of my life in a sickly body. I have decades of life ahead of me, hopefully, right? And so I decided, because I had taught yoga before, because I had been in somewhat of the holistic space before, I thought, you know what? I've heard that the body can heal itself. I have to figure out, how can the body heal itself? What does that look like? And so, of course, I went to naturopaths. I started going to holistic practitioners because I thought, well, maybe they know, right? And when I went to a homeopath, I was put on different remedies. When I went to a naturopath, I was put on different supplements. And unfortunately, I didn't actually start to feel better at all. I just felt the same. But now I was spending hundreds of dollars every single month on supplements. Then I tried like different kinds of diets. I had somebody that I knew in the yoga community that was really big on keto. So I did keto. I did like a plant-based version of keto, and I lost weight, but I still didn't feel good. For me, it wasn't just about the weight. It was about feeling like myself again, like having energy and vitality and inspiration, having like a little sparkle in my eye. Like I wanted to feel like the person that I used to be prior to my husband's passing. And so I did keto for a while, but it wasn't really sustainable for me, and not really a lifestyle that I wanted to be doing for the rest of my life. And of course, I was on all kinds of supplements. I was still taking my daily medications. Then there was a little while where I started doing cryotherapy because, it burns fat. So I was going to this cryotherapy chamber once or twice a week. And all I did was, I didn't burn fat, but I burned through a lot of money doing that. So yeah, that was not a good thing. Then I heard this commercial on the radio for this, like, diet plan, weight loss plan. And I went, and mind you, I'm sharing all this. This is before I became a practitioner. This is before I studied nutrition, before I started to study the human body. This is when I was like, what I like to say, I was just a civilian. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I was falling into all of this marketing hype and crap that didn't actually address the fundamentals of why someone develops hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, or why someone develops an autoimmune condition. Like, what is going at the root level? What is happening at the root level? And so I was doing all of these things, going to these different practitioners and different, so quote unquote solutions, not realizing that none of the people that I was going to actually understood what kind of species we are as a human being, how our human body works, how food works in the body, what actually needs to shift in the terrain in order for the body to create health. And so I was just falling for all these marketing tactics. And part of the reason that I created all of my social media, and why I decided that I actually wanted to relaunch my YouTube channel after like a 3-4 year hiatus, is that I really want people to have this information. I really want you to understand that there is a science to the body. There is a science to how our body works. And there are ways to address the root causes of chronic illness and disease within the body. Unfortunately, a vast majority of practitioners, people in the health and wellness space, people who call themselves, excuse me, people who call themselves nutritionists and health coaches and naturopaths and holistic doctors and functional medicine doctors, all these people with all these different titles, unfortunately, a lot of them, even if they say that they address the root cause of disease, they don't, right? A medical doctor, somebody in the medical model, will give you pharmaceuticals, which do symptom suppression. And yeah, they either do symptom suppression or they do chemo, radiation, surgery. That's not addressing the root cause of disease. Those are all Band-Aid approaches. Now, if you go to somebody who's more of a holistic practitioner, they're going to give you a whole bunch of supplements. Again, still a Band-Aid. That's not addressing the root cause of disease. Where what I do is a little bit different in regenerative health. I'm asking deeper questions of like, why is that happening within the body? What's happening in the internal terrain? What has to shift in order for the body to heal itself? Because that is what our body is capable of. Everybody's body is capable of doing that. I'm not special, And so I'm not a special unicorn. So I want people to actually ask deeper questions. And, I will also be very straight up and say the work of true healing is actually very difficult. You're going to come up against yourself. You're going to come up against your limiting beliefs, limitations in your body. You're going to be challenged. You're going to feel things in your body. And it takes somebody who's truly committed to their healing to want to push through all of that. Okay, so let me talk real quickly about this last thing that I tried that was not only was it a failure, but it was super, super expensive for me at the time. And hindsight is always 2020. And I'm sharing this because if you're on this journey of dealing with thyroid issues, Hashimoto's or Graves or some other autoimmune condition, or maybe you're dealing with a whole bunch of chronic health issues at once, which unfortunately is very common because what happens is once the train within your body comes out of balance, if you are not doing the things to help support rebalancing your internal terrain, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. If you are somebody who's taking medications thinking that that's going to fix the problem, all that does is suppress your symptoms. And because you're not actually addressing the root of the problem, of course, your body is going to get sicker and sicker and sicker, right? And then there'll be another diagnosis and more medications. That's how the whole system functions. If you're paying attention and you're taking notes, you can see that that is what is going on. Sick people are big business. Healthy people, not so much. Okay. So I heard an ad on the radio, and it was for getting like a custom program designed for me. So I went to this meeting, and I met with someone who, now that I think back, obviously didn't know anything about the human body or health, but she did this like whole intake process, and I got sent a program, right? And I did my best to follow the program, but really it was like a very expensive diet program of where you're counting calories and macros and you're measuring things. And that is not a sustainable path to health and wellness. The other part that was problematic in that program was that it still had inflammatory foods. And so part of the issue within my body was that my body was inflamed. So me continuing to put fuel on top of the fire wasn't going to get to the root and fix the issue. Now, so those were all the things. And this program, I think was about $4,000. So it wasn't cheap. It was meant to be a year-long program, but it was $4,000. And let's just say I didn't get the results that I wanted. I just wasted $4,000. Not to mention the money I spent on cryotherapy and supplements and medications and going to the doctor and getting tests done and all the things, right? It was very, very frustrating for me. And so what happened for me was on Halloween in 2017, I was in a car accident. And that car accident, I like to very affectionately say that car accident was the universe giving me a bitch slap to wake me up, to pay attention, to go, hey, what I'm doing is not working. I need to figure out how to actually heal. And so I was in this car accident. Thankfully, I was the only person injured, and my car was the only car that was totaled. This matters to me because in my foolishness, I don't ever want anyone else to get hurt. And so I was in a car accident on the freeway, and traffic stopped suddenly. I was too slow to react because I had so much brain fog at the time that I wasn't always I wasn't sharp the way I am now. And so I saw the traffic slow down and stop too late. And I swerved hard right to try to avoid hitting the person in front of me, but I hit him. My driver's side bumper got him, and then he hit the person in front of him. So we were in this multi-car accident on the freeway. And thankfully, my car was the only car that was wrecked, and I was the only person that was injured. And I'm very grateful for that. Because I got to spend 3 months at home in 2 casts. I had a cast on my right arm, and I had a cast on my left leg because I hurt my right hand and I hurt my left ankle. And so I had time to think about what was going on in my life and what an epic disaster it had become, because I was dealing with these chronic health issues. And even though I I thought I was trying to get better and thought I was doing the right things. I wasn't doing the right things. And so I decided that I actually, as hard as it was at the time, I decided that I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to learn about nutrition. I wanted to learn about how the body works and how to actually heal myself and all of that good stuff. So that's eventually what I ended up doing. And now I'm going to share with you, and through that, I mean, nutrition wasn't the be all. The health coaching wasn't the be all and the end all. Like I realized very quickly as soon as I started to go into health coaching and I started learning, I was like, no, this is not going to help me heal my body to the root. But I did the program, and then I did a couple of nutrition courses and certifications. But even that I felt didn't go deep enough. And eventually I ended up studying regenerative health. And it is regenerative health that has helped me to restore my health, my vitality, and get the sparkle in my eye back, reverse hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, get rid of the depression and the gut issues and the fatigue and the brain fog and all the things. So from a regenerative health standpoint, the reason that what I was doing wasn't working was I wasn't addressing the internal terrain within my body. Over the course of my lifetime, because of the foods I'd been eating and my lifestyle and stress and toxicity and chemicals and heavy metals and parasites, all things that I was totally unaware of my whole life, all those things had started to pile up month after month, year after year, decade after decade in my body, contributing to a toxic and imbalanced terrain. Like back then, I still used to eat processed foods. I was hooked on sugar. I drank coffee multiple times a day. Like I'm talking double shots, triple shots of espresso. What else? I still drank alcohol. I wasn't drinking every day, but I drank every weekend. So I was doing these things that in our society, in our culture, we're told, oh, it's okay to do these things and in moderation. But the issue was that my moderation was I was doing all of these things that were contributing to the problem. Then I went through and I'm gonna give a plug for my book because it's sitting here. I published a book called Finding Light. And in this book, the first part of the book, I go through some of like the challenging things that I've gone through in my life. And so I've lived a life where I've gone through a lot of trauma, a lot of stress. And then the most stressful event in my life was the passing of my husband in September of 2012. Like that literally became the perfect storm, the tipping point that created so much chaos and imbalance within my body that now this disease state had developed. But if I think back to my health journey over the course of my life, I'd been suffering from bouts of depression off and on since I was a teenager. And knowing what I know now about what happens when someone takes antibiotics and how that impacts the gut health and mood, it of course makes sense to me, right? But I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that when you have a round of antibiotics, that your chances of developing anxiety or depression goes up exponentially. And for women, even more so, right? I didn't know that. I didn't know that there was a connection between taking birth control as a teenager and the development of hypothyroidism later in life. This is stuff that I've learned as a practitioner. And unfortunately, most people still don't know how the things that we are taught to do, how a lot of those things actually harm us. And in fact, all through high school, I ate fast food probably almost every day of the week, right? Because Burger King was on my way home, and there were different people that I would hang out with, and we would go grab Burger King on the way home. I didn't realize how toxic processed food and fast food is and how much it damages the body and the gut. And so these are all things that I had done over the course of my life. And of course, by the time I was diagnosed, I wasn't eating fast food every day. I wasn't doing certain things. I wasn't, taking antibiotics all the time, but the damage had already been done. And then my husband's death was the tipping point that kind of set my body over the edge. So what I've come to understand in practicing regenerative health and studying regenerative health is the terrain really, really matters. And so when our body becomes very acidic due to a highly toxic diet and lifestyle, what happens is that it creates a lot of stagnation, a lot of lymphatic stagnation, toxins and heavy metals start to back up in the body. When that happens, this actually creates the perfect ground for parasites to come in. And what the parasites are doing is they're actually taking advantage of the situation, and they're trying to clean up the terrain in their own way, but they just stay. And so all of these different things that I had been doing over the years since I was diagnosed, like I'd say between January of 2014 and summer of like spring, summer of 2019, was I was doing things that weren't going deep enough in terms of cleaning out the internal terrain of my body. And the things that I was trying didn't address the root causes. They didn't address the toxicity in my body at the cell level. They didn't address my gut health and how important it was to get rid of the chemicals and the heavy metals in my body. They didn't address glyphosate, which is unfortunately a chemical toxin that all of us are exposed to, and we're constantly breathing it in. It's coming into our body through our skin, whether we're aware of it or not. And even if you are somebody who's being very mindful of your diet, it doesn't matter, you're still going to breathe it in. So I didn't know anything about glyphosate. I didn't know anything about how to shift my internal terrain. And so all of the things that I had been doing to try to get my health back on track, they were just expensive band-aids. Doing cryotherapy was just a super expensive band-aid with zero payoff for me. Keto was a band-aid that didn't even address how the human body functions, how human digestion functions. And of course, at the time, I had no idea because I hadn't studied nutrition or regenerative health. I hadn't really looked at how does our body respond to different types of foods that we're eating, and how does that impact our overall health and well-being. Everything is not the same, right? Eating a candy bar is not the same thing as eating an apple. How your body processes those two different things is completely different. One is man-made, full of artificial flavors and sugars and dyes and toxic chemicals, and your body does not know what it is, and it doesn't know what to do with it, and it can't process it properly. The other thing is, like, if you can get an organic apple or a regeneratively grown apple, ideally, a regeneratively grown apple has all the raw living enzymes and nutrients and amino acids and even possibly some essential fatty acids and fructose, all the things, the phytonutrients that our body needs, plus fiber, which feeds the microbes in our gut. It's actually, in a lot of ways, the perfect food because it's so easy on our digestion, and the nutrients within it are so readily absorbed. Now, I'm probably going to do future videos because one of my things with my YouTube channel is that I really want to put this education out there because so many people still don't understand how their body functions, how their gut functions, what food does in the body, and how different foods impact the body. Most people still don't know that. They actually don't know how their body works at all. And that's part of the problem. And they go to practitioners who also aren't that clear on how the body works. And so depending on which practitioner you go to, one's going to push one thing on you, somebody else is going to push something else on you. So if you go to a medical doctor an MD is going to give you all kinds of pharmaceutical interventions, which damage your liver, your gut, your kidneys in the long run, not to mention all the side effects they may have. And then if you go to a naturopath or a holistic doctor is probably just going to give you a whole bunch of supplements, not recognizing that isolate supplements are also stressful on your gut and your liver and aren't recognized by your body as anything usable. So once you start to have a better understanding of how your body functions, then you can actually support it correctly. And so for me, none of these things that I had been doing on my hypothyroidism Hashimoto's journey were getting to the root, right? And then in the summer of 2019, I started to actually focus on addressing the root causes in my body. And that meant not changing my diet for 1 or 2 weeks, but actually understanding, oh, wow, my body needs raw living enzymes. It needs micronutrient dense foods, and I need to make sure that I'm putting in this into my body forever, not for a day, a week, a month, but forever. And so I made that commitment to myself. I decided I was going to make a permanent diet and lifestyle change. I started to work on my gut health because I discovered in my research, as I was learning about my condition and just learning regenerative health, I learned that I had been unknowingly exposed to this toxic chemical glyphosate, which is actually patented as an antibiotic. So I had been ingesting this antibiotic unknowingly my entire life, breathing it in, it getting into my body through my skin, not to mention all the GMO foods that I'd eaten over the course of my life. And so I prioritized gut health. I prioritized getting rid of chemicals and heavy metals and addressing parasites. And I realized that those are the foundations of what it takes to actually create health in the body. And I had to shift my internal terrain and also be willing to give up the things that I knew were damaging my health, like processed sugar and alcohol and caffeine. A lot of people with thyroid issues don't realize is that when you're drinking coffee, it actually disrupts T3, T4. Not to mention that it's hard on your adrenals and contributes to hormonal imbalance. And if you are one of those people that drinks coffee on an empty stomach, coffee is so acidic in the body. And if you choose to ingest it on an empty stomach, you can actually damage the lining of your stomach. And there is a connection between drinking black coffee and stomach cancer. So I was willing to stop drinking coffee. And as I researched and learned more and more about how damaging alcohol is in the body and how it not only does it damage your liver, your gut, your brain, but it also impacts your thyroid function, I let that go. I was willing to release alcohol. I was willing to stop eating the things and putting things into my body that were harming my health, right? I made a focused effort on making sure that the beauty products that I was using or am using and continue to use are completely non-toxic. And that's on purpose because your liver does 60% of the conversion from T4 to T3. T3 is the active thyroid hormone. 60% of that conversion happens in your liver. Your liver also is responsible for trying to process all the toxic chemicals that come into your body. So if you're exposing yourself to all this toxicity through the foods you're eating, water you're drinking, what you're putting on your skin, what you're putting in your hair, your makeup, what you're breathing in, if you're putting all of this excess toxic load on your liver, it's going to affect how your liver functions. And that could potentially make it hard for your liver to convert T4 to T3. So understanding that there are levels, layers, and nuance to creating health in the body. So the reason that things I was doing wasn't working, I wasn't addressing the internal toxic terrain. I wasn't addressing chemicals and heavy metals. I wasn't addressing the quality of my diet. And I was continuing to ingest foods and things that were damaging to my health. So in order for my health to turn around, I decided to commit to having micronutrient dense foods every day. I decided to commit to taking care of my gut health, addressing chemicals and heavy metals and parasites. And when I did that in a very, very focused way, I did it for like 6 months, nonstop, continuously, like a very, not, I wouldn't say it's very intensive. It was an easy program to do. It was just deciding to make that commitment. But I did it. And by the end of the 6 months, I was off all the thyroid medications. My depression that I had been dealing with off and on since I was a teenager, gone, has never come back, no matter what happens in life. And, I got my energy, my vitality back. I don't wake up in the morning and have a hard time standing up straight or getting out of bed. I'm active again. That was one of the things that I really struggled with when I was sick. Like, I went from somebody who went to the gym 5, 6 days a week and practiced yoga almost every day to somebody who could barely move. And now I'm back to being active. Like, I'm active in some way, shape, or form every single day of the week. Like, most days I'm doing yoga, I'm walking. Some days I'm also doing weights as well. And there was a long time where many years of my life where I couldn't do that at all. But I've been able to return to that level of activity. And the program that allowed me to do that is something called the Ultimate Lifestyle Transformation. I decided I wanted to work with it in my practice because it was that life changing. I mean, it lives up to its name, truly. And it gives someone all that they need in terms of their quality of nutrition, addressing gut health, addressing parasites, getting started on that path. And there are so many days that I've woken up and I was like, I suffered from like 2014 to 2019. I suffered for those years looking for something like that, not realizing that it was out there. And I just think to myself, wow, what so much heartache I could have saved myself, so much time, so much energy, not to mention so much money I could have saved myself had that program just fallen into my life a little bit sooner. So I wanted to kind of share that because I hear from so many people that are struggling with chronic health issues, different kinds of autoimmune conditions. And here's the thing, if you continue to use band-aid solutions, you're not going to heal. You're going to feel maybe marginally better, but you're not going to actually get back to the vitality and the health that your body deserves because you're not going deep enough. And when you get to the root of addressing the quality of diet, addressing gut health, addressing parasites, detoxifying from chemicals and heavy metals, when you actually address the root causes, your body is smart enough to heal itself. And then it's just a matter of continuing to take care of yourself. And I think, unfortunately, as modern human beings, most people think that they can get away with treating their body like trash, and somehow it's not going to matter. But actually, it matters a lot. It makes a huge difference what you're putting into your body, the quality of nutrition you're putting in, and you need to be doing like some kind of a supportive detoxification protocol. A lot of people think like detox is something that you're supposed to do in the spring and the fall or a couple times a year. But in reality, our body is detoxifying every single day. When we're exhaling, when we're sweating, when we're going to the bathroom. And those things need to be supported properly on a daily basis. And if you can do that consistently, regularly, then all of these things don't build up in the body. That's the smart way to do it. So for me, I've got my green drink here. So since I did that program, I was doing like green drinks a day, doing the gut support, doing the apothecary. And I did that continuously for 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, I was able to get off of the thyroid medication. And then since then, it's like I just do one of these a day. That's it. Eat sensibly. Sometimes I'll do two because I feel like it, because I love the taste of the green shake. And my diet is like super, super simple because that's what our body likes. Our body likes simplicity. And I try and stick to regeneratively grown foods, which is what these are, as much as possible. and organic as much as possible without driving myself crazy. The other thing that I wish I had had, because it took me 6 months to reverse hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's. But in my practice, I work with a molecular hydrogen bottle that has frequencies. And I've been working with this bottle now for 2 years, so I can put frequencies into my water. And I've noticed that every single client that I have that pairs the superfoods with the molecular hydrogen, they get healthier faster. And that's because quality hydration is foundational for health, as is quality nutrition. So I'll give you a quick example. I had a client that I worked with about a year and a half ago. She had Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism. And she was breastfeeding at the time, so we couldn't do a full parasite cleanse. But I put her on superfoods. I put her on the greens and the gut support, and we started to detox some of the heavy metals. But I also put her on molecular hydrogen and had her running frequencies into her water. Her antibodies went from like almost, I think it was like almost 900 down to less than 200 in 3 months. That's how quickly her body started to recover with proper hydration, proper nutrition, and detoxification support. So that's what's possible. I mean, I wish I had known about both of these things sooner. Now, this company's only been around for just over 2 years, 2.5 years. So as soon as I found out about them, I was like, yes, I want a bottle. I want to use it. I want to notice, see what it does for me. And if I love it, I'm definitely want other people to have it. But this has been around for 30 years. Unfortunately, it didn't come into my field. I was diagnosed in 2014. It didn't come into my field until the summer of 2019. And as soon as it came into my field and I started utilizing the superfoods, within 6 months, I was off the meds. Had I been able to pair these two together, I am absolutely certain that I would have been able to come off the medications probably within 3 or 4 months. Because most people don't realize that 95% of illness is actually connected to poor diet and lifestyle, a toxic terrain, parasites, all of those things. And so when you give your body that foundational support and allow your body to actually properly detoxify itself so that it can regenerate itself, then what ends up happening is the body heals itself. That's the magic of it. So anyway, I wanted to share that because I don't think I've really shared what my diagnosis and all the things that I did in between to try to feel better that didn't work, and why I believe so strongly in the modalities that I believe in. It's not by accident. I tried lots of things that didn't work and wasted a lot of time, energy, and money. And I really want to, part of the reason that I have my platform is I really want people to know what actually works and use that instead of struggling and being unhappy and sick and miserable, because there's no need for that. There are solutions. So anyway, if you enjoyed this video and you're not following the channel, please follow the channel. Please subscribe. If you know anybody who's dealing with autoimmune conditions, and especially hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, please send them this video, because chances are they have been looking for solutions for a very long time and are desperate to find some answers. So have them see this video. If you want my book is on my website. So go to my website, which will be linked below, and you can get the book from Amazon. If you get the book and read it, please leave me a review so that others can also learn about what this book is about. I have a group membership called Elevate, which is focused on root cause healing and supporting others through some of the protocols that I've done over the years, but to really understand the body more deeply and to give your body the supports that it needs to heal and to regenerate. And so that will also be linked below. I'm working with one-on-one with like a select group of clients. So if you're interested in working with me one-on-one, that is also possible. And Of course, if you have questions, if you're on a hypothyroidism Hashimoto's journey and you have questions, please put your questions below. I love answering questions and helping you to get some proper information. I think back to when I was struggling with, depression and anxiety and hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, when I felt like trapped in my body, when I felt like such a prisoner and I didn't know where to go or what to do. And I even felt like I was doing the right things and nothing was working. And it was so, so frustrating. I remember those days. And I want people to know that it is possible to heal. There are solutions. And yeah, it's just about making some changes and being really committed to adjusting and changing your diet and your lifestyle so that it can be much more supportive to you. So, yeah, I hope you found value in this video. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of my online community. And I will see you in the next live in a couple weeks. Bye for now.